There's a 2,500-year-old text that Silicon Valley CEOs, Navy SEALs, and championship coaches study religiously. It wasn't written for motivation. It wasn't designed for inspiration. It was created to decode something far more dangerous: how the human mind operates under extreme pressure. And what it reveals will change everything you thought you knew about winning. How one man cracked the code of human behavior under chaos. 6th century BC China. While most military leaders were still figuring out basic formations, a strategist named Sun Tzu was uncovering something revolutionary. Performance isn't about strength. It's about psychology. It's about understanding that the real battlefield exists entirely in the mind. And this changes absolutely everything about how you should approach discipline, focus, and achievement today. Here's what makes the art of war so dangerous. It's not a war manual. It's a blueprint for human behavior under stress. Sun Tzu figured out that mindset without strategy is just anxiety. That discipline without timing is wasted energy. That productivity without direction is just motion pretending to be progress. He mapped out principles that modern neuroscience now calls cognitive load management, and behavioral psychology refers to as decision architecture. But he did it 25 centuries before these fields even existed. And here's where it gets fascinating. Sun Tzu never talks about winning battles. He talks about winning without fighting. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without battle. This isn't weakness. This is intelligence operating at the highest level. It's understanding that real high performance isn't about brute force, it's about superior positioning. Reading the terrain before anyone else. Anticipating moves before they happen. Turning disadvantages into advantages before the game even starts. But here's what almost nobody catches. Every single principle in this book translates directly to modern challenges. Negotiations, career moves, business deals, relationships. Everything is a battlefield. Everything requires strategy. Everything depends on mental frameworks. Sun Tzu was building a universal operating system for peak performance. And the most successful people on the planet know this. Only there's a detail that changes everything. Sun Tzu wasn't interested in heroes. He rejected impulsiveness, despised ego. What he was searching for was something far more rare: absolute self-control in total chaos. And this opens a door most people never even see. Because real discipline isn't about waking up early. It's about knowing when to retreat, when to attack, when to wait. And that requires a level of self-awareness that most people will never develop. But here's what's truly unsettling. If you apply just one of his principles consistently, your life shifts. But if you implement the complete system, you become virtually unstoppable. What elite performers know about invisible advantage. Let's go straight to the most brutal insight in the art of war. All warfare is based on deception. Sun Tzu isn't talking about lying. He's talking about perception control, about shaping your opponent's reality. And when you apply this to modern life, it becomes absolutely devastating. Because whoever controls the narrative controls the outcome. Think about it this way. You're in a high-stakes negotiation. The other side has more resources, more experience, more apparent power. But Sun Tzu would say, irrelevant. What matters is who controls the timing, who defines the terrain, who forces the opponent to play their game. High performance isn't about having more. It's about positioning better. It's about making your adversary believe you're invincible when you're vulnerable, or weak when you're actually strong. But that's not even the strangest part. The real edge comes from a concept Sun Tzu called formless form. He said, the best strategist has no fixed pattern, adapts like water, changes as context demands. Modern resilience is exactly this. It's not about taking hits. It's about not being there when the hit comes. It's about reconfiguring strategy while everyone else is still executing yesterday's plan. And here's something tech leaders understand perfectly. Speed of adaptation beats raw power. Sun Tzu knew rigid armies were predictable, easy to destroy. That's why he preached total flexibility. Just as water shapes its course according to the ground, the soldier works out his victory in relation to the foe he faces. Productivity today is precisely this. It's not doing more, it's doing different. It's pivoting before the market forces you to. Only there's a brutal paradox in this philosophy. To be totally flexible, you need an absolutely solid foundation, unshakable internal discipline, crystal clear focus, deep self-knowledge. Because if you don't know who you are, any wind blows you off course. Sun Tzu built war systems for soldiers trained to become execution machines, but conscious machines, capable of thinking under fire, of improvising without losing structure. And this is where everything changes. Because when you combine strategic flexibility with operational discipline, you create something rare: predictability in your results, unpredictability in your methods. Nobody can neutralize you. You always have an exit, always have plan B. And this isn't luck, it's mental design. But there's still the darkest part. Because Sun Tzu had one specific obsession: winning before the war even begins. Why? The greatest victories happen before anyone notices. Here's the secret that separates amateurs from masters: the most important battle is the one you avoid. Sun Tzu dedicated entire chapters to this. To force the enemy to surrender without fighting is the pinnacle of excellence, and this isn't cowardice. It's strategic intelligence at the highest level. It's understanding that every ounce of energy spent in direct conflict is energy that isn't building your empire. Think about the greatest negotiators in history. They don't win through the strongest argument. They win through the most complete preparation, through the smartest positioning, through the ability to make the other party believe that yielding is advantageous. Sun Tzu called this conquering through strategy. Today, we call it persuasion, negotiation, influence. But the essence remains identical. Shape the environment so victory becomes inevitable before the confrontation even starts. And here's something that shifts perspective. Sun Tzu said, "The perfect general is never remembered, because he wins without glory, without epic battles, without blood, only with silent, absolute results." Real high performance is this. It's not about appearing, it's about delivering. It's not drama, it's brutal efficiency. The world celebrates those who fight heroically, but who actually dominates? Those who structure everything so they don't need to fight. Only there's a detail almost nobody perceives. To win without fighting, you need to know your adversary better than they know themselves. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. This isn't arrogance. It's mathematics. It's reducing variables. It's transforming uncertainty into certainty through obsessive information and preparation. Drop the word victory in the comments if you've realized most of your battles could have been avoided with better planning. And tell me, when was the last time you won something without having to fight for it? How did that happen? If this content is landing, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. There's a lot more archaeology of achievement coming your way. And this opens a door few people walk through. Because when you master the art of winning without confrontation, you free up time, energy, and focus to build bigger things. You don't burn fuel putting out fires. You invest in structures that prevent the fire from starting. How Sun Tzu's invisible framework builds unstoppable minds. Now, let's go to the deepest core. Sun Tzu wasn't just teaching tactics. He was building a thinking system that transforms ordinary people into unstoppable forces. And here's what's most fascinating. This system works because it respects human nature instead of fighting against it. One of the most powerful principles, opportunity multiplied by timing produces momentum. Sun Tzu knew timing is everything. That action without context is waste. That the same strategy can be genius or disastrous depending on when it's executed. This is high-performance mindset. It's not about working harder. It's about attacking when terrain favors you, when the opponent is vulnerable, when the market is open, when you're ready. And here's something modern science confirms. The human brain wasn't designed for continuous effort. It was designed for strategic bursts of action. Sun Tzu understood this perfectly. He talked about economy of force, about concentrating resources at the decisive point, about avoiding unnecessary wear. Real productivity is this. It's knowing how to say no. It's protecting energy for the moments that truly matter. But that's not the most unsettling part. The real edge is in how Sun Tzu viewed self-control. The general who advances without seeking fame and retreats without fearing disgrace is the jewel of the kingdom. He was describing someone completely free from ego, someone who acts for results, not validation. And this is incredibly rare, because most people make terrible decisions to feed their self-image, to prove something, to avoid shame. Meanwhile, the true master acts invisibly and wins silently. Only there's something even deeper. Sun Tzu said, "In the midst of chaos, there is also opportunity." He saw crisis as fertile ground. He understood that when everything collapses, whoever has mental structure dominates. Absolute focus under extreme pressure is the ultimate superpower. And this doesn't come from motivation. It comes from systematic training, from conscious repetition, from constant mental simulation. Type control in the comments if you've realized that mental control under chaos is the real difference between those who grow and those who stagnate. And tell me, which area of your life needs strategy the most right now? If this video shifted how you think about high performance, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because strategic knowledge is power multiplied. And here's what few people understand. Sun Tzu didn't write for warriors. He wrote for anyone who wants to win at life. Because all life is strategy. Every day is a battlefield. And whoever masters the invisible principles of the human mind simply doesn't lose.